You want some loving too? Look at you, big boy. Look at you. You big old. Look at you. Oh, you big boys. Did you have a good breakfast? You guys had a good breakfast. Hey guys, the first thing I am doing this morning is walking. I got to do this for so long. Just it gets so hectic, but getting back in the habit of it this year. Feels so good out here just to be walking. It's cooled off, and one of my favorite things to do to relax and chill out. Before I had Joseph, I walked all the time, and then when Joseph was little, I would walk too because I could put him in a stroller and walk around, but as he got older, it got a little bit harder. But now I got a walking buddy. Hey, walking buddy. You can see the mountains this morning, so pretty. All right, guys, we're back inside. I'm in the kitchen, and our plan for today is I'm going to be putting a lasagna together. We usually have family that come over on Saturdays, and I just really like something where I can just throw something in the oven, and I'm not stuck in the kitchen the whole time that they're here. So that's actually going to be really easy because I already have my spaghetti sauce ready to go. Whenever I make any type of spaghetti or Italian dish, instead of just making up one jar, I'll make up two. That way I can put it in the freezer, and then I just take it out, defrost it, and all I have to do is actually just boil noodles to throw everything together. Then I'll just keep it in the refrigerator, and tomorrow I'll take it out, let it get to room temperature, and then throw it in the oven, and I don't have to worry about it. Also, I got my list here ready for Thanksgiving, where I'm just a little less than 2 weeks away from Thanksgiving, so it's going to get busy. Got to clean next week. What I really like to do every year before the holidays come is deep clean my kitchen. That way I know that it's pretty much clean. I just maybe have to clean it up a little bit in between each holiday. But I am actually this year, I'm going to be reorganizing all of my bottom cabinets. All except for the one under the sink. That's just cleaning supplies. But when we moved, everything just kind of got thrown into cabinets, and I've already gone through my top cabinets and I've reorganized them. I had my dishes on the other side of the kitchen, and in our old house, they were right across from the refrigerator. So every time I would go to serve up dinner, I would come to this cabinet and there were no dishes. So I've already gone through and redone the top ones. I'm very happy with those. I have these drawers. They're fine. I'm very happy with the way they're organized. It's just these bottom ones, and as you can see, this one is a tad bit cluttered. So, and the one thing that just really irks me when I cook is when I cannot get to stuff that is in the back. Like if I had to dig through there to go use something, I would not even make it. So this is our job for next week. That I can concentrate on this. I'm going to be taking 2 to 3 days to go through and prep stuff. That's why today I'm also going to be doing pie crust to put into the freezer. If you watched a previous video, you know I already pureed pumpkin. I baked that up. So we have fresh pumpkin for pies. I'm very excited about that. It's the first time I've tried it. And then I'm going to do the pie crust today, put them in the freezer. So all I have to do is just bring everything out and put it together. So we're going to be doing those two things, and then we're going to see what else we can squeeze in today. So let's get started. All right, so to start the lasagna, all I have to do is cook up the noodles. I like to use this pan because it's nice and wide and I can really get the noodles to fit in there. So add some salt to the water. And a little bit of oil just to keep the noodles from sticking together. Oh, okay, that's good enough. And since the watch pot never boils, we're going to start on the pie crust now. This recipe makes 2 pie crusts, so I'm going to be doubling the recipe. But I can only fit so much in my food processor, so I'm going to be doing it one at a time. First, we're going to add 2.5 cups of flour. This is actually going to be the second time I made this pie crust, but it was very good, so that's why I'm using it again. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar. 1 teaspoon of salt. Okay, now we're going to mix it together. Calls for 1 cup of cubed butter. I like to go through and cube the butter and then I will put it back in the refrigerator so I know it's going to stay nice and cold. Anytime you touch butter, your hands will just start to soften it up. So you don't really want to touch it any more than you have to. Now I'm going to pulse it until the butter becomes pea size. That's not pulsing. There we go. Okay, and then you can see like the chunks of butter. It's not quite pea size yet. All right, that looks good. It's now going to call for a 1/2 cup of ice water. I have ice in here. I have water from my refrigerator, so it's very cold. And then I also put it back in the refrigerator to stay cold. Again, you don't want your butter to soften up. You want it to stay hard. Now I'm going to turn it on and slowly add the water in until it mixes completely. Let's see how it looks. Okay, I'm just going to add a tad bit more water. All right, I think that looks good. By the time I get it mixed into a disc, the warmth in my hands is gonna melt the butter and it's all gonna come together. So. right, and I love watching Becky from Acre Homestead, and what she likes to do is go through and use a rolling pin to form the pie crust. All right, I'm gonna put this in a Ziploc bag and we're gonna put it into the freezer. Now I'm just gonna do the same thing to this one and I'm gonna make a whole nother one and then that's it, guys. All right, guys, our water is at a boil. I'm gonna go ahead and add the noodles. And this is why I love this pan. I can just go ahead and add all my noodles in. I don't have to do it in stages. I love it. And I also like to just kind of like layer them so they're not stacked on top of each other. That way it's a little easier to stir them and make sure they're not sticking and getting done correctly. All right, there we go. Let me put the lid on for a minute. All right, guys, this is pretty much where I like to get the noodles. They're not quite cooked because they're going to finish cooking when I bake them. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it off. And then I also do not worry about draining them. I just take them straight out of the pan. I think I've showed you guys this before, but when I want to take something out of a Ziploc bag, I'm just going to go through and cut the corner. This way at the end, I can squeeze out all the stuff. Otherwise, if I just open it from the top, it's kind of hard to squeeze it out. So I'm just going to throw some sauce in here. I have sprayed the pan just so it can kind of help with it not to stick on the sides. Any less cleaning is always the best. I also do want to say that we are not a ricotta cheese type of family, so I just stick to regular shredded cheese. That's it, guys. I'm going to put this in the refrigerator, and then tomorrow I will take it out, let it sit to get to room temperature. Then I'll bake it at 350 for about 40 minutes, and then I'll take the foil off and add a little bit more cheese. But I got the lasagna prepped, and then I got 4 pie crusts made in about 45 minutes. That's pretty good. I got 3 pie crusts in the freezer. I left 1 in the refrigerator because this summer when we had a lot of peaches, I made up filling and put it in the freezer. So I'm gonna let this defrost. I'm gonna use one of the pie crusts to make some peach hand pies. And since I have a little extra time, I am actually going to make up the best chocolate chip cookies. I'm not saying they're the best. The title actually said the best chocolate chip cookies, and I can't deny they're the best. Ever since I found this recipe, I've never made any other. So that's what we're gonna make now. All right, guys, we're going to get started on these. Excuse me, they're called perfect chocolate chip cookies, and I'm not going to deny that either. I've been making this recipe for over 10 years. They're so good. Now, if you're like me and you decide at the last minute to make cookies and you haven't any butter at room temperature, I just put these in the microwave on defrost, and I just keep checking them. And this recipe is going to be 1 cup of butter. This makes a ton of chocolate chip cookies. This will last about a week around here. I don't cook them all up at once. I will, after dinner, I usually just cook up like about 9 cookies or something like that. This will last us about a week. So we have 1 cup of butter. I'm going to add 1 cup of brown sugar and 1 cup of regular sugar. This is a 1/2 cup measure, so I'm going to add 2 of these. You can also, when it's all mixed, you will put it. I'm going to try to find the original recipe because it was actually an article on how to bake the perfect chocolate chip cookies, and then this recipe was at the end. The article was so good. It had so many tips and tricks on how they get the perfect chocolate chip cookie baked. So in the recipe, it tells you when you're finished to refrigerate the dough before you bake it up. That way, when it bakes up uniformly. So you could always either make a half of recipe, or if you want to make up a whole recipe, but you're not going to eat them really quick, or you want to do these for the holidays and make them up in advance, I would just refrigerate the whole dough. I'll show you at the end how I do it. And then after it's refrigerated, you can go through and make like golf ball or whatever size cookies you like. Put them on a cookie sheet, let them freeze, and then put them in a Ziploc bag, and they'll stay up for like 2 to 3 months that way. All right, we got 1 cup of butter, 1 cup of brown sugar, 1 cup of sugar, and we're going to blend this all together. No butter gets left behind. And to get the eggs at room temperature, I just put them in a bowl of warm water and let them sit there for a few minutes. And I don't remember if the original recipe called for this or if it said something about it in the article, but I add a tablespoon of milk. Going for 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. Just get it. Now I'm going to mix this in with the batter. All right, so the recipe calls for 3 1/4 to 3 1/2 cups of flour. It just all depends on where you're located, your elevation, whether it's spring, summer, fall. You're just gonna kind of have to adjust it. So what I like to do is on the last is I will take a half and I'm just gonna add like a little bit. And then that way, when I start mixing it, if it's not pulling together like it should, then I know how much more to add. Now in the recipe, it does say to add your flour, I think a little at a time or in thirds, something like that. If you've seen my videos, we don't do that around here. This is the way I've made it all the time. Mix it all in one bowl. I just don't have time for that, guys. They're lucky they're getting homemade stuff. And then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. All right, guys, now we're going to mix this all together. All right, guys, I am going to add a little bit more flour. I don't think I'm going to need all of it. All right, before I mix this, I'm going to go ahead and add the chocolate chips. Now, the recipe calls for 1.5 cups of semi-sweet. I don't do that. I'm going to add 2 cups, and then I am also going to, I usually do like half and half. I don't know how many milk chocolate I have, so that's semi-sweet. Yeah, so unfortunately, I only have about 3/4 of milk chocolate, but that's okay. We're going to finish filling it. All right, we're going to mix this in and see how it's looking. Now I'm just going to kind of give it a little bit of a mix. And I don't know, guys. I think it needs a little bit more flour today. Yeah, it's just a little too wet. So we're going to add a little bit more flour. And I think my mixer's had it, so we're just going to do the rest by hand. I thought I do normally add the whole 3.5 cups, but I couldn't remember, and it's better to be safe than sorry. Yeah, you can see how it's just really coming together in a nice ball now, but it's still, let's see. Yeah, see how it's sticking to the thing? I'm going to add a little bit more. We just kind of have to keep going until it looks like cookie dough. All right, I will usually use parchment paper, but I'm out and I don't want to go to the store, so we're going to use plastic today. All right, and then what I like to do is I like to just kind of form it into a log. And that way, because once you put it in the refrigerator, it's going to get really hard, and then it's kind of sometimes hard to cut into. So that's why I'm just going to do this. All right, and that's it, guys. I just put this directly into the refrigerator. It's too big to put in a Ziploc bag. Once we use a little bit of it, I will put it in a Ziploc bag. Or you can put it in the refrigerator and then you can just take it out and then again put it into like golf size balls or whatever size you want. Put it on a cookie sheet, the balls, let it freeze, and then put that into a Ziploc bag. It'll store in the freezer for up to like 2 or 3 months. So that's it, guys.
Okay.
When are you going to stop growing?
Oh no, stop it! We're on camera!
All right, guys, I want to thank you for hanging out with us, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.